Good evening, Internet. This is CFS Eurovision here, and I have been gone longer than I wanted to due to illness, but I'm hopefully back for the long run now. Today, we'll go through the latest developments in National Final Season 2026. We start with a couple of weeks ago as I'm recording this, and the last video I was talking about Moldova and Selecția Națională. Their final was held on the 17th of January in Arena Chișinău by Daniela Crudu and Ion Jaiba. The voting was done in three parts, the first an international jury, the second a Moldovan jury, and the final part, public vote. 16 acts took part in a show that lasted about as long as a Eurovision final, and randomly included an interval act halfway through the actual acts, just to make the evening feel a little longer. The acts, in a quick rundown, as we've already covered Moldova previously and we're pressed for time, are as follows. Artyom Topal, who appears to be mugging us. Valeria, who turned up on time this time and had a giant traitor in the background of her staging. Adelisha, who decided to wear almost nothing except boots, and give us almost nothing in the way of a vocal performance. Maxim Zavidia, who repeated the lines, "I'm calling you, you're calling back," and "Allo." Hopefully someone was on the other end of the phone, although I doubt it. Evgeny Abramov and Alenin Ivan and their Tomatoes of Doom. Catalina Solomak bringing Belarus 2019 energy. Diana and her backing Ghosts. Satoshi and a song that is Moldova incarnate. Sasha Flowers and somehow the most painful vocals in a crowded field. Christy Rouge with what I'm supposed to believe is Bliss, but sounds more like Fleas. Ilinka Siviroveanu running through the rain, presumably in shoes as flat as her voice. Bacho interviewing his own teddy bear. Curly and a cross between Peaky Blinders and Men in Black. Emphoria with words and music that don't have anything to do with each other. Katie Rain and her backing dancers forming a conspiracy board. And Pavel Orlov, who can't say goodbye despite being last on. The winner was my favourite, Satoshi with Viva Moldova, and I couldn't agree more. Viva Moldova! And that voting split I mentioned earlier, they won all three sides of it. A landslide. Maximum points of 36 over Pavel Orlov with 26 in second. Truly extraordinary and truly Moldovan. Well done. Also happening that same night was the similarly long slog that is Malta Eurovision Song Contest. There was a semi-final on the previous Thursday in which 18 acts competed, and 12 went through. The 6 eliminated songs were Cheskaleya with Shout It Out, in which Angel Wings appeared in the background that she was never stood in the right place to fit into. Liston with Mela and its 2.2 stars on EurovisionWorld. Kelsey Attard's Perfectly Broken, which was a generic boring ballad. Kurt Anthony's On the Borderline, which probably wasn't, it was probably way off qualifying. Rhiannon Mikalev's Hold Myself Up, in which she apparently had problems with her in-ear monitors. I mean, you'd never have noticed from this vocal performance. Shockingly, Stefan Galea with Pose. It would appear people preferred Nathan Psila's entry, which sounded similar and we'll get into later. Anyway, that's what the 50-50 split of jury and public voting produced. The final was held the same day as Selecția Națională, as I said, with the same 50-50 split occurring, and these were the contenders. Janice Manjon with Univers, who appeared to be rather sadly the only one moved by her own song. Kelsey Borges' Let a Girl Breathe, which I actually liked, even if the main bit that sticks in your head is quite grating. Jonas Echo Ini Mai, Matt Black's Ea Leia Dea Llawn, the flute, which was written by one of the same writers as Echo Ini Mai, and applied 0 changes to said song. I mean, I loved Echo Ini Mai, don't get me wrong, but change it up a little bit. Denise with Trophy, but not an MESC one, who appeared to be wearing her bra on the outside of her outfit, like a female version of Superman. Nathan Psila with Ganador, which, as I said, was very similar to Stefan Galea, which probably split the vote and caused Galea to miss out. Emma with Achikuku, Don't Think About It. Achikuku. That's the tone, I think. Certainly not the annoying background drone of this. Franklin Kalea with Guide You Home, and his backing vocalists who seem to both get stuck repeatedly. Michael Bartolo Chirkop with My Sweet Angel, whose trousers don't seem to be holding up well even with all those belts. Mark Anthony Bartolo and Momenti Spier, which might have been improved if he had more than just himself on stage with lyrics in the background. This isn't a bar, or indeed the 1980s Eurovisions anymore. Aiden with Bella, which starts and finishes within the 3-minute time limit, and that's all I have to say on the matter. Matthew Cilia and the After Party with embarrassingly my favourite Brutality Mentality. I said when I joined ESC Gabe's Discord server that I'm commonly found overrating rock. So there you go. And Adria twins with Nerga and Kum, who, despite being twins, have to be tied together to ensure they don't run as far away from each other as possible by the looks of it. The winner was Aiden with Bella, unfortunately. Look, he performed it well on the night, and he's clearly a great singer and artist, but the song just does nothing, in my opinion. It doesn't go anywhere. It's dull. It's repetitive. It was my least favourite in all of MESC this year. But there we are. It's a rare case that this happens. Luxembourg Song Contest is our next topic, held the following week in the Rockhall in Esch-sur-Alzette, wherever in Luxembourg that is, by Hannah Sophia Lopez, Loic Yucam, and Raoul Roos. The voting was 50-50 public and jury, weirdly at both the normal stage and the super final. If the outcome is highly unlikely to change if you keep the voting system the same if you're going to have a super final, but never mind. The top 3 songs entered the super final, which we'll discuss later. There was a total of 8 competing entries, so 5 were in this case thankfully eliminated. These were the following: Luzac with Prison Dorée, which is very similar to songs we have heard before in English, but this time it's in French. Wow, what a twist. Darius with Melusina, or Tautumaitas from Latvia last year, performing Voila from France in 2021. Shirokuro with Eye to Eye, again the first half of which was in black and white. Why is this becoming a trend in national selections? I'm not making up this next title. Andrew the Martian with I'm the Martian, which, despite the concept sounding interesting and inventive, there was nothing going on stage. A distinctly human-looking man singing while sat on the edge of the stage and moving into various poses. It just doesn't really make sense. Hugo 1, Manchester United 0. Sorry, I'm always tempted to make that joke where I see a number where it shouldn't be. And Hugo 1 with Born Again. Very Schlager, very safe, very radio. No, you don't wish you were born again. Do I think the right decision was reached overall? I think so. Luxembourg has struggled over the years with the production value of the staging far outstripping the value of the songs. They've often been accused of generic songwriting in their selections. I think this is a slight upgrade overall on the average, but unlike the last 2 years, there wasn't really a big fan favourite that people really got behind and wanted to win. And I think that says it all about the calibre of these songs. It wasn't great, but it was slightly better than the previous 2 years. Anyway, let's take a look at the top 3 then, and in third place in the super final, receiving 66 jury points and 56 public points, for a total of 122, was Irem with Bad Decisions, Hush Hush. Not to be confused with Hush Hush by Meira Omar in Melodifestivalen in Sweden last year. This is entirely different. This came 7th with the jury in the first round, and honestly that's fair enough. I don't see a lot in this song that impresses a jury, if I'm being completely honest here. I do find it catchy, although the genericness of how she made it multilingual is a bit of an issue in my opinion. Incorporating a few phrases here and there is okay, but c'est comme ça, or at least a variation of it, is overused in this context now, and it's time to change things up a little. I did like the German elements though. German doesn't often get used because not even Germany sends German to the main contest. So yeah, I think that was okay. Second place was my personal favourite, don't judge, Steve Castile with Sweet Tooth. It received 80 from the jury and 56 from the televote, for a total of 136 points. The vibe was sort of Halloween, Jack Skellington-esque, almost like it was straight out of a Scooby-Doo episode. It was very strange, but it stood out to me as the most among various levels of just generic pop. I'm not sure the lyrics, I am a dog, throw me a bone, watch me roll over for you, are particularly groundbreaking, though very in keeping with the context. There's also, in the staging, what I can only think is supposed to resemble a corpse reanimating itself during the bridge. She's not on stage for that long, so I can only assume this was going to be a bigger concept that was just sort of pushed to the side for the rest of it. The only thing that could have made this even more horrifyingly strange was if the singer was wearing vampire fangs. I loved it, but it didn't win. Instead, the win was awarded to Eva Maria and her song Mother Nature, with 94 points from the jury and 128 from the public. It was a landslide, so once again, I'm going to be quite controversial in saying I didn't like the song. This is becoming a theme. I hope in future videos I'll be able to say I liked the winning entries. Although, to be fair, I was positive about Satoshi earlier on, so I've got that going for me. Anyway, my main issue with this one is that it's a nothing burger. Don't worry, I won't use that word too much, otherwise ESC Gabe will attack me. The song is like the kind of thing that would have worked 10, maybe 15 years ago. It's a generic, happy-toned ballad, sung by someone who is constantly smiling throughout, about her furniture. Wait, you mean to tell me she's singing Mother Nature, not My Furniture? That's not a misheard lyric, that is poor elocution and pronunciation. Maybe she'll get more votes if My Furniture becomes a theme. Maybe that's what I'm missing here. Anyway, as you can clearly tell, I wasn't a fan of this song, despite it winning by a decent margin in the end. Luxembourg, I'm sorry, but you chose wrong this time. Next, a quick interlude to first tell you to like and subscribe if you haven't already, but also to note that Bulgaria has chosen its artist, Dara. No, not that Dara, that would be strange. We have decided that an Irish comedian would give us the best chance of winning. No, not that one, this Dara. She allegedly won a contest called Nacionainis Selekcija, held in BNT Studio 1 in Sofia, and hosted by Georgi Lyubenov, Boriana Gramatikova, and backstage green room type host Vladimira Ilyeva. The voting was allegedly done in two parts, first a 5-member jury giving 1 to 5 points to each artist, and then the public giving 1 to 8 points in a ranking format. I say allegedly because I so far have made contact with no one who actually watched these events play out. I don't know whether it was only available in Bulgaria and no one from Bulgaria has been within earshot of anything I have said at any point, or what, but no one knows what happened, and yet we know this was the outcome. Moving on. Next, we're off to Lithuania for the first 2 heats of Eurovizja.LT, the longest national selection process in the contest, consisting of 5 heats, 8 songs each, and then a final of 12, with the top 2 from each heat joined by 2 extra songs from a wildcard round out of the 3rd place finishers. This is a new element to the format devised after the controversy last year, after the public vote winners in 2 of the 5 heats, Black Biceps and Liepa, were both eliminated in tiebreaks for 2nd place because the jury was the tiebreaker. This backfired instantly with the results of Heat 1, as you're about to see. But first, let's talk about the eliminated Heat 1 acts. Heat 1's eliminating acts in running order were Siga with Noriu Yo, 2.6 stars on Eurovision World, Cape that extends longer than legwear, Valdas Lachko with Pabandom. Ironically, Eurovizja.LT's old name was Pabandom is Naujo, translated as Let's Try Again, before the upgrade in 2023. Anyway, 2.2 stars on Eurovision World. and a vocal performance that wasn't any better than that. And the song didn't do any heavy lifting either. Elizabeth Olszej with Between, in which she was being abducted by aliens by the looks of these lighting areas. Aistipilvelita with Tab Zvaigždžių Tylos. Apologies, but that word has 3 Z's and 2 of them have consonants after them. This one was actually my favourite of the heat and has generally positive comments, so I'm not sure how this was eliminated. But there we are. Decent voice, minimal staging needed, good job. And the Ditties with Mambo, who decided to bring us well and truly into the 20s. The 1920s, that is. Normally, I wouldn't mind, but also, who is that man and do they know him? Sorry, I'm starting to get worried for their safety. Anyway, it's an okay song if you like that kind of thing. I don't, so I can't really comment too much, just not my thing. Of those, 4th place was Elizabeth Olszej. Now, this is what occurred with the results. Elizabeth Olszej was so-called 4th with 10 jury points and 5 from the public for a total of 15. Thomas G, with his song One Night Lover, also received 15 points, but with 8 from the jury and 7 from the public, making his total 15 points. Now, as the decider was, in tiebreaks, is now the public, Thomas G went through to the wildcard. I just find it fascinating that LRT, the Lithuanian broadcaster, would change the rules following a controversy last year, only to have a similar one go the opposite way this year. And look, for the record, there's never going to be a perfect system when you have this 3 to 8, 10, 12 point jury system, and the same for the public. It will always end up in ties, which will have to be broken if they're on a borderline. And this way of tie-breaking is better, in my view, as it's more democratic, and we generally will get to see a more exciting song in the latter stages. But I do think it's important that the lesson we learn here is that when you do change a system and a situation presents itself where it's an almost identical situation to the one that caused the original controversy, and the opposite outcome occurs, that is going to happen naturally unless you completely overhaul the system. I'm not advocating for that, I'm just saying you have to consider the consequences. Thomas G's song itself was not my cup of tea, but it was interesting and reminded me in a good way of Mikolas Josef from Czechia 2018. The sort of confidence level required to make that song work, because essentially in this song he's trying to court a love interest. Admittedly for a one-night stand, which ethically isn't great, but anyway, I felt the staging was decent, although it felt a little bit empty. If I had to criticise it, I would say that maybe some backing dancers would add to it a little bit. It is upbeat, and just a man doing a little dance around a microphone stand doesn't quite cut it. But still, as a package, it does kind of work in my opinion, and so I don't mind it being given a chance. The top 2 now, and second place was a returnee to the competition in Neu, this time with his song Stand Up, which received 6 from the juries and 12 from the public. The song has 2.5 stars on EurovisionWorld, which makes me question how on earth that EurovisionWorld to public vote difference happened, as anyone can rate it on EurovisionWorld. It's a public thing. But there we are. It does kind of feel like Neu has tried to take what Catharsis did when they won this show last year and apply it to his own music. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing here. This is one of the better entries. Is it enough to win? No. And you'll see why when we go into Heat 2. But it is overall an okay finalist, especially by the standards of Lithuania. The winner of the Heat was Ruzla, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, with Ikona Zemaite, or in English, Icon Zemaite. Zemaite was basically a Lithuanian academic who became a major factor in the Lithuanian national revival, where the Soviet Lithuania became the modern state that we now know today, Lithuania. She mainly wrote about the life of peasants, as she put it, in a realism-related style, basically laying the realities bare of what the poorest in society had to go through in the USSR, which obviously then gradually led towards the social change and eventually the liberation of Lithuania from the Soviet Union into the state it is today. It's quite an interesting backstory to a song, which is always a huge positive when it comes to these entries, mainly because it means I can say something about them, which I'm grasping at straws for most of them. This is the kind of story that I really like hearing about when I do my research for these videos, and just in general when looking at these songs. I'm a politics nerd, and I did sociology at A-level, and of course a media degree. So a lot of what I've done academically is about trying to understand the world we live in, and anything that makes me find out the slightest little thing, even historically, is always appreciated in these contexts. The performance itself and the staging makes so much more sense with that background info attached. The image of Zemaite is projected in the background. The outfit the singer is wearing is a modern adaptation of the kind of clothes Zemaite would wear. I'm not sure Zemaite would necessarily approve of the song overall, but it's certainly in a Lithuanian context a song that will resonate. I worry for it in a wider context, because if people haven't looked the story up, then their understanding of it will be zero. Right, on to Heat 2 now then, and as usual we start with the eliminated acts, which were Thea Leroy's Oblivion, which received 1.9 stars on Eurovision World. It's unclear why the public hated so much, it's not that bad. Menulio Fage with Dabar Ircia, 2.5 stars on Eurovision World. A nice song, but the sort of thing that usually enters Eurovizja.LT that isn't quite at the standard of the kind of thing that gets through. Melania, no, not that one, hopefully, with The Offering. You can lift her up with that outfit. Does that make her the offering? Dagna with Sao Meloyam. Little ditty, inoffensive, not particularly great though. And Agna Buskevichuta with Unbound, which I really liked. I feel the vocals are suitably angst-ridden. It's dramatic, it's dark, it's atmospheric. I feel this was only eliminated because the standard in this heat was incredible. I don't know what LRT did to put all these songs in the same heat, but this was genuinely an insanely good heat, in my opinion. The wildcard receiving 15 points, 8 from jury, 7 from public, and don't worry, it had an actual lead this time, was Greta with Parade. It's nice to see female rock being not just represented on national final stages, but genuinely factoring in the outcome and going through to latter stages of competitions. It often feels overlooked as a genre. Rock is male-dominated enough. Now, unfortunately, the lyrics make absolutely no sense at all. Can you all get off of my chest? How many people are in this room with her? And a repeating line in the chorus is, me 'cause I want it all. Look, either way, it's a great song and it deserves a chance. Second place with 22 points, the 10 coming from the public, of course, with the tiebreak, so 12 from the jury, was Vilnius Voices with Grishim, which seemed to be well liked from the social media response to it. I have to say this was an interesting entry to me. I get slight vibes of Taučiubaitas last year from Latvia, but changed just enough to still be inventive and unique. The unsynchronized repetitions give me goosebumps, honestly, and I'm so glad that the jury rewarded this accordingly, because I feel like it really did deserve to advance. Needless to say, this was overall my favourite from the heat, and it was a really strong heat to boot, so well done, Vilnius Voices. The Heat 2 winner was Atakin with Deganti Zemele. Obviously 22 with 12 from the public, 10 from jury, as would have been the only possible conclusion from that second place result. I have to quickly just get this straight with regards to Atakin himself, because there's been a bit of misplaced controversy. Atakin is Lithuanian-Ukrainian, but has attracted controversy after performing in Russia after the 2014 invasion of Crimea had taken place. Whilst some would consider this an issue, I have to say that attitudes towards Russia were by far not the same in 2014 as they are now, and he's spoken out multiple times against Russia's invasion of Ukraine since. Now, on with the song. I don't like it massively, but I can understand why some would. I just don't feel like a beat from a drum machine is enough with random shouty vocals to make the song work. Now, we're getting close to the end of the video now. I know this has been slightly exhausting. Just think about having to make the video. But we've still got 2 more shows to go through. The first is the return of Sweden's Melodifestivalen. Melodifestivalen is a behemoth of the broadcasting world in Sweden. Some would even go as far as to say that it is bigger in Sweden than Eurovision itself. The production quality is something that has got to be admired, even if the songs of late in the selection itself have not really been as admirable as the staging. MelFest, for short, consists of 5 heats, each hosted in a different Swedish city, and a final in Stockholm, which doesn't host any of the heats. The heats are Televo only and 6 songs each. The act with the highest number of votes automatically goes through to the final, and then a point system is applied among age groups for the other 5. First in the age group's vote gets 12, second 10, third 8, fourth 5, and last 3. There are 7 age groups, 3 to 9, 10 to 15, 16 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 59, 60 to 74, and 75 plus. These ages are applied from verification through the Melodifestivalen app. There's also a separate set of points for phone votes. The act with the highest amount of points from this system goes through to the final, with the runner-up going through to a final qualification phase with the others from the other heats. 2 from those acts will go through to the final as well, making 12 finalists. With all that in mind, let's take a look at Heat 1. Heat 1 took place in the Saab Arena in Linköping. The 3 eliminated acts from Heat 1 were Junior Lerin with Copacabana Boy, an in-your-face dance anthem. Just look at that outfit. Unfortunately, not inventive enough for my liking, but still a stretch by MelFest standards. Noll 2 with, I'm sure it's 2 in Swedish, not in English, but Noll 2 with Berisade Ord, where they sung into hairdryers by the looks of things. A nice song in Swedish, which isn't too common in MelFest. After all, it took them until last year to send a song in Swedish for the first time since the sing in your own language rule was abolished. Alas, not good enough for Noll 2 this time. And Indra with Beautiful Life, which sounds like a combination of Stay by Anna Odebescu from Moldova 2019 and any song sung by Elsie Bay. The act that entered the final qualification stage was Jacqueline with Woman. Glad she knows what she is. Anyway, it's a bit generic, but not necessarily in the way that Sweden usually finds itself being. It's almost a different trap they've fallen into. It's not a bad song by any means, and it's not the usual Schlager type stuff we're used to seeing from them. I do think overall that this did deserve to go through, even if it was written by Thomas Gison, who is responsible for some of the most generic stuff we see in national selections. Seriously, you go back through a lot of these selections, and the stuff that sounds samey and generic are either written by him or Jimmy Joker Thornfelt. It's impressive the amount of times this happened. The finalist from the points system was A-teens, or certainly A-adults, as they are now. I don't want to be a party pooper, but I really don't like this song. It's very Schlager, it's very Sweden. It's just the same thing. It's a bit Steps S Club 7-like, which is quite telling of how dated this feels. At least 20 years, maybe more. Probably as long ago as they were teens, to be honest. And so they had to raise their game with the staging for this, and we got boxes. 1 box for each member. It's very Steps, isn't it? And oh, look who was one of the writers. Thomas Gison. Isn't that interesting? Anyway, the vote winner was Greshela, who returned to MelFest after a decent outing last year. This year, his attempt was titled Half of Me. The vocals are extreme. I'm not saying they're good, but they're extreme. If I'm honest, that probably raises the song because the music sounds just like Gloria by Laura Branigan. And I don't want to make you feel old, but that was over 40 years ago now. Yikes. We finally land in Latvia for Supernova. And if you're thinking that this is early in the year for Supernova, you'd be right. In previous years, Supernova has consisted of one big semi-final and then a final a week later. This year, they've decided to increase that to 2 smaller semi-finals, 12 songs each. 5 go through to a 10-act final. Semi-finals are hosted in Riga Film Studio by Ketia Senberger, Loris Reinix and Mara Slayer. Semi-final 1's eliminated acts were Antra Stafechka with Diveyada, a generic but well-produced ballad in a native language. Agnieszka with Oh My My, a catchy and interesting song. Why is the staging such that we can't see the backing dancers there? Bluri with Lovin' Always Gets Me Down, and another shadow dancer. Ivo Oskis with Walking Out. No, Surbak isn't back. Ivo is in a box, which he walks out of. Hence Walking Out being the title of the song. Very clever. Daba with Panic Attack, which was a jarring collection of noises that almost worked, by which I mean they didn't work. Honey Blue with Blue Disco. Why is she dressed as a car wash? And Ivo Grishnin's Grishlis with Home, and it's 2.3 stars on EurovisionWorld. Staging, wings that are too big for him. Helpful. Lastly, the 5 that went through, starting with Tikasha Sakama and hashtag 010126 Coda, whatever any of that means. Ironically, when I Google it, I just get sent back to the song. The song is quite good. It's like Billie Eilish meets Vesna from Czechia 2023, although I may just be reminded of Vesna because of the faces of the backing dancers, who also feature in the stage performance as well as the music video. In the stage performance, they're attached to her. No idea why. I mean, she's highly unlikely to just run off. Anyway, yeah, it's decent. We haven't really seen too much of that kind of music since 2021 when Victoria brought it for Bulgaria. So it's nice to see it get a run out again. Elpa with Blackish next, and I get Shebby vibes from this weirdly. It roughly translates to beside, and it's got the sort of slightly dark club vibes, but stripped back in a way. Feels a little heavy despite that. It's very hard to explain, but just vaguely speaks to me. The staging really leans into that, with the plain white background and the words appearing on screen, along with the man and his DJ deck just off to the side. The vocalist doesn't move too much. The lighting on her face is blue rather than a spotlight, increasing the intimacy of it all. It's a very interesting entry the way they've done it, and I think that elevates it to where it needed to be to make it through to the final. And now we have the controversial one. Emilia with All We Ever Had. Some people don't like her or the song. I don't really understand why, if I'm being honest. It has 2.5 stars on EurovisionWorld, which is too low. The song is written by herself, so kudos for that. It's nice and soulful. It does remind me of several songs I used to hear on the radio growing up, but in a good way, not that it's generic at all. Now, yes, the live performance is an issue, because all the positives I've just listed apply to the studio version. The issue is, the studio version has an effect during the chorus that is very difficult to apply live, even with backing vocals. This unfortunately was proven in the live performance, which is a slight shame. I really hope she has a better performance in the final, because I do like this song, and I think the negativity around it is unnecessary. And now for perhaps my most controversial opinion of this video, and there's plenty of subject matter. Kautkali with Te Un Tagad, which translates to here and now in English. This has 4.6 stars on EurovisionWorld, which of course, out of 5, makes it an extremely high score. I don't like it. It feels bland. There's nothing going for it. I don't feel anything when I listen to it. I don't want to dance. I don't feel emotional. It's just there. It doesn't do anything for me. What I will say as a positive is that I love the staging live. It's innovative. It's creative. If you watch it on YouTube, see a few seconds, do something in a different tab for another few seconds, and switch back, and you'll wonder how on earth it changed to that. And that's a huge thing in its favour. Finally, we have De Mantra with Let Them. Welcome back to Automate. They've even got the crowns, the strange backing singers, the vibes in general. It's the same thing. In all seriousness though, this is a very good choice for if Latvia wanted to send something similar to last year, like Cyprus did when Fuego worked for them in 2018. It's entirely up to the jury and public, but thinking strategically about what worked in previous years, I wouldn't mind if this won Supernova. So, that is finally it. I know, a very long video this time. Don't worry, the next one won't be as long, at least that is if I'm not ill in between again. But anyway, let me know your opinions in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.